Hi. So, Jim.
Hi,
Sorry.
Les.
Hi. So I'm a little nervous. This is my first time doing an interview like this, so I might like mess up a little, but it's okay. And I
We're
also
gonna have a
talk with
great
my
time.
hands.
Welcome.
Yeah, we're gonna have a great time. So it says that you're an artistic director. How
Mhm.
long have you been an artistic director, and like what is it
And
exactly?
what is an artistic director
Yeah, what is it?
anyway? So let's start with that, okay? So a company often has a CEO and a CFO, somebody in charge of the finance, somebody in charge of the product. Sometimes that might also be called the creative director. That
Okay.
might be a better title, like in a marketing agency. I'm the creative director. I choose the shows that we're going to do. I choose the designers. I choose the actors. I choose
Mhm.
when we're going to do them. And then I produce all that and put the product on the stage. And then I have an executive director. We share power, the two of us, who is
Yeah.
in charge of marketing and box office and the building
Mhm.
and making sure the infrastructure is there to do the art. So that's what an artistic director does.
Oh, interesting. So you choose everything. So why did you choose Romeo and Juliet? And like, why did you choose it for this time, like January 14th to February 8th? Like, it's such a very specific like amount of time. I'm curious why you picked that and why the.
Um, we run along with the school year. So
Yeah.
our main season is going to be end of August through the end of April.
Mhm.
And Romeo and Juliet is a show that is greatly attracted to middle school and high school students to come see it. And we want to be transferring the beauty of that art to the next generation as well. And our season is put together in such a way that we go show by show. And the slot that was best for Romeo and Juliet was this one in January, February. We knew the buses would be available for the students to come. Our adult audiences are past Christmas now, ready to see
Mhm.
that. And then that's followed up with a comedy called Fat Ham. It won the Pulitzer Prize about
Oh,
five
wow.
years ago, which is a Southern fried take comedy on Hamlet.
Oh,
So it
interesting.
takes place at a barbecue, which is Fat Ham.
Yeah.
And the person playing Hamlet in it is very large, hence again, Fat Ham. And it's a modern comedy where if the ghost of your father came to you and said, "Hey, you need to kill your uncle," you wouldn't just instantly go, "Yeah, I'll do it." You'd go,
Yeah.
"Now wait a minute.
Why are you here? Why is there a ghost?
Why are you here? And you just came out of the grill, you know?"
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the next show that as soon as this one closes, we'll transfer over the stage. It'll take us about 2 weeks, and then we'll open the next show.
Oh wow, that's really cool. And that sounds so funny. The fat ham. I like now I want to see that. That
You
is
will want to see Fat Ham. It's very, very funny, and it's a
yes.
very modern reflection on Hamlet. And from 2023, I think was when it played on Broadway and won the Pulitzer
Yeah.
Prize. And then we'll close our season with Henry VI Part 3, which is part of the Wars of the Roses that Shakespeare wrote, four plays that are about the entire Wars of the Roses that end in Richard III. And we'll do Richard III next year. And that
Oh,
finishes that whole series.
yeah, that's really cool. So speaking of like modern takes on like
Mhm.
Shakespeare, it was mentioned in a few like other interviews. We interviewed Tybalt and Benvolio's actor
Oh, great.
actually. Yeah, that this take on Romeo and Juliet kind of has a bit of like a modern spin on it, a little. I was wondering.
It's totally a mix of both.
Yeah,
We had an early discussion about whenever you're doing a Shakespeare play, one discussion is, well, how are we going to do it? What time period are we going to do it
yeah,
in? Because when it was written in the Elizabethan period, they're doing periods long before the Elizabethan period, but they were all performed in the Elizabethan period. And at that time, women weren't allowed on the stage, so it was all men doing it. Well,
yeah,
we're probably not going to do it like that, right? So how are we
yeah.
going to do it? It takes place in medieval Verona in Italy. And there are a lot of references to rapiers and daggers and fighting and Verona itself. And in our design discussions, one of the discussions was we also want to bring this to our age, to 2025 and people
Yeah.
living today. And how do we do that? And what I was just in Verona this summer. And what's interesting is Verona itself hasn't changed. The arena, the Roman arena, is still there. A
Oh,
lot of
okay.
it still looks like medieval Verona, but then there's all this veneer of the modern age on top of it. So how do we create a world as if the Renaissance stayed, but made its way into the modern world? So the costumes are a blend of, some look pretty, not Elizabethan, but Renaissance, and some look modern, and some look like kind of a blend of the two. So for example, I play Friar Laurence. Friar Laurence is a Franciscan friar. Well, Franciscan friars look exactly the same today as they did in 1400. There's been no change. They wear the brown robes, right?
Yeah.
So I look
Uniform
exactly
the same.
Whereas Julian, who's playing Tybalt, is all in cool red leather, but he has a rapier and dagger. So that's kind of blending the two together. And Brett, who's playing Benvolio, is again a mix of those two. So it's really a blend of time periods. And then when it has classical sounding music in it, but a lot of it also is actually contemporary music set to an Elizabethan violin, etc. So when Romeo and Juliet first meet and first talk at the dance, they're dancing to Taylor Swift's Romeo and Juliet, but with Renaissance violins.
So very
that's
like
part of that.
Bridgerton inspired kind of.
Yeah, I think you could say that, right? That it has a Bridgerton kind of feel of, well, we're not doing that time period. We're doing that time period as if the following things were true. So in our world, in Romeo and Juliet, we're in a modern world that references Verona, but guns and cell phones were never invented.
Oh, wow. That's
because
really cool.
I mean, we don't really talk about that, but if there were guns, the sword fight between Romeo and Tybalt would be quite short.
Yeah.
And there are lots of other ways to do it, modern productions with chains, and in a Baz Luhrmann, Mercutio stabbed with a piece of glass. So there's other ways to do it, but we also say the word rapier 12 times in the play. So there was kind of a, well, this is the word, let's use this and create a world whereby we just don't have guns.
Yeah.
And if we had cell phones, I send a letter to Romeo that doesn't get delivered, and that's part of the disaster. Well, I would just text him and he would just respond. So we have to create a world whereby the circumstances of the play can be true.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I love how you do like blend the worlds together instead of being like, oh yeah, it's just set in this time period, you have to like know about the Renaissance a little to do it. It's like, no, it's a blending. And then that leads into like how Romeo and Juliet, even though it's such an old text, can still be applied to like what's happening in modern day and the lessons that like we could still learn from it.
It's interesting. I had somebody after the show a couple nights ago in the lobby, a friend of mine was there and said, I really didn't think about how relevant this play is right now. Right now, we have two warring families. They're called Democrats and Republicans. And they're fighting, and a lot of their children are trying to figure out how to live in this world with so much hate in it. And unfortunately, hate hasn't gone away since Shakespeare wrote this play.
No.
Life hasn't changed since Shakespeare wrote this play. Young people fall in love, they do impetuous things, and their parents are often inaccessible, don't listen to them, and have their own fights that are carrying on for generations and generations. And how many examples do we have of that worldwide? Families and nations fighting. It's just everywhere. And within that story, there's I mean, how many times could you tell the story? There's a Ukrainian girl who falls in love with a Russian boy. There's a girl in Gaza who falls in love with an Israeli boy. There's somebody who's Irish Catholic and somebody who's Protestant. There's somebody, it just could go on and on and on. It's such a timeless story of my character. Unfortunately, he gives a lot of good advice and he doesn't follow it himself. Is saying wisely and slow. They stumble that run fast. These violent delights have violent ends. Don't rush to judgment. And it's the whole play takes place in 4 days.
Yeah. It's so
They meet
fast.
each other, fall in love, and are dead in 4 days. And if everybody would just slow down a little bit and talk,
Yeah.
common ground could have been found. And I do think that one of the things that's so sad for the friar is in the very beginning when Romeo comes to him and says, I've fallen in love, will you marry us? And the friar thinks about it. At first, he's kind of hesitant. And he goes, you know what? This might be the thing that brings your two families together. This might be the thing that makes it work. So he says yes to it. And what he says is, I hope this brings the two families together. Well, in the end, in the grave, Romeo and Juliet laying there dead, the two fathers come together and say, let's end this war. So it does actually happen, but at the sacrifice of a number of people's lives. Tybalt and Mercutio and Paris and Romeo and Juliet all die. It's not just the two of them. All the young people.
Yeah. It took all of that to make the change. In the play.
I think too, and we also live in an age where young people do impetuous acts. Mm-hmm. And Romeo and Juliet both commit suicide, which they should not do. And if they thought about it longer, they wouldn't do. And I would love for that also to be a thought for the young people who are seeing it. This is not the right answer. This doesn't solve anything for anybody, and it doesn't make it better for you either.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's a lot of lessons in the play.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that everybody can learn from Romeo and Juliet. And how I have so many questions, and that was just such a strong no. I just need to sit with it for a second. So you mentioned Friar Laurence, of course, your character. He is a well-meaning guide for Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
How do you approach his responsibility in the story? And like you said, how even though he gives this good advice, how he doesn't follow it as well. How do you approach that kind of character?
I did a lot of research. I talked to Catholic priests. I learned, and I think one of the things, for example, so Juliet has already married. This is midway through the play. She's married Romeo. No one knows about it but me.
Right.
Romeo goes out in the street right after the wedding, runs into Tybalt. There's a fight between Tybalt and Mercutio. Mercutio dies and Romeo kills Tybalt. Then he gets banished. Well, her parents see her crying, and they assume they're crying because Tybalt's dead. They don't know they're crying. She's crying over Romeo. So they immediately want to marry her to another person, Paris. And they think that's going to solve everything because they're in the dark. They don't really know. So she comes to me and says, either you figure out how to get rid of the second marriage, or I'm going to kill myself right now in this room. And she pulls a knife.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I'm a Catholic priest. The very worst thing that a human being can do in the Catholic faith is commit suicide, because you are then damned to hell for all time. There's no forgiveness for that.
Yeah.
And I don't want her to do that. And I'm just standing in the room not knowing what to do. And I happen to have made this potion earlier in the play. And I say, oh, okay, all right. I have an idea. If you're so serious that you would kill yourself over this, how about we do a thing where we fake your death? And all you have to do is drink this off, and you will appear as if you're dead for 24 hours. And Romeo will come, and we'll bring you from the grave. Everybody will think you're dead. That gets you out of the second marriage. He, in a rush, thinks this is a good idea. And if you slowed down and thought about that at all, it is not a good idea. But he's trying to prevent something that's even worse, which is her suicide right now. So I think it speaks to that. When we make these decisions without thought, even when we're well-meaning, even when we think, and then from there on, he's pretty sure that it's all working out, right? She, in fact, does take the sleeping potion. They do think she's dead. She goes to the tomb. He writes to Romeo. Romeo's going to come. It's all, granted, Mercutio and Tybalt are dead, but the
Yeah.
rest seems to be working out. And then the letter that he wrote doesn't get delivered. And this is an ironic thing in Romeo and Juliet, because he gives it to another friar, Friar John, and Friar John is stopped because he's in a house where they have the Black Plague, pestilence.
Right.
So in today's world, it would be like, I walked in and they stopped me for COVID and I couldn't get on the plane. You know, I mean, we just had a pandemic where people couldn't travel or communicate. So he doesn't deliver the letter. Somebody else comes to Romeo, his servant, and says, Juliet is dead. Romeo says, okay, I'm going to go to her grave and kill myself right now, because he didn't get the message from Friar John that Friar Laurence sent. So it's just this miscommunication, you know. It's later on, Friar Laurence says to Juliet, a power greater than we can comprehend hath thwarted all our intents. That sometimes you can plan it out, but the execution gets off. So I think part of it is he thinks at first, I'll do this secret marriage and then I'll go to the families and talk to them about it and say, it's already done. So you can't, I think his fear is, if I go to the Capulets and the Montagues and say, these two young people were in love, will you consent to their marriage? They'll say no.
Yeah.
And then there can't be a healing. Whereas if I can go to them and say, guess what? Your houses are coming together because they're already married. And that's a mistake too. You should let parents know, right? That's not a very good one. But he never gets a chance to do that because Romeo, I mean, in 1 hour after he gets married, Tybalt's dead in the street and he's banished.
Yeah.
So it's so fast that I think even, and I'm sure your listeners can think that too, of, I had the best of intentions. I thought the best thing would happen, but I did make a quick decision. I didn't think about it long enough and everything went wrong. And that's what happens to Friar Laurence.
I'm sure I definitely, and I'm sure other people as well, have had that moment in life where it's like, I did everything right. It was all perfect. And then all of a sudden something happens.
All goes wrong. And it's not, I mean, it's none of it's a good idea. None of it's a good idea. It's interesting when you're in a play, as an actor in a play, at the end, a number of the actors who play characters will all kind of think, whatever went wrong, it was my fault.
Yeah.
But in this play, it really is Friar John's fault. He's supposed to be the grown-up in the room, you know, of these two young people saying, I love that you two are in love. And what we need to do is go talk to your parents.
Yeah.
And that actually would have solved the whole thing. But unfortunately, there wouldn't be a fabulous tragedy called Romeo and Juliet if that happened, right? Yeah. Plays are about things that go wrong.
Yeah. If everybody communicated well and was peaceful and could figure stuff out, there wouldn't be
There would be no play.
There would be no play.
There'd be a 10-minute play called The Marriage of Romeo and Juliet. Yeah.
Yeah. No one wants to watch that.
And there were plenty of, you know, since it was written in the late 1500s, a number of adapters have come in and changed the play to a happy ending so that Romeo and Juliet stay together. What that version played almost exclusively from 1700 to 1800 with a happy ending. So they Disneyfied it.
Wow.
You know, I mean, if you've seen The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney movie, the Hunchback is happy and swinging through the streets at the end of it. No. The Hunchback dies. It's a tragedy. They all die. It's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. But people like a happy ending. So sometimes an adaptation will go, well, we'll make it a happy ending. So
yeah, even with the Little Mermaid and everything.
I'm glad we're not doing that. Yes, right, exactly. The Little Mermaid dies too. She turns into sea foam.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you said the happy ending for Romeo and Juliet, that made me, I'm 21. That made me think of Romeo and Juliet.
The movie, which was delightful.
Delightful. They all sing Elton John songs and they all have a happy ending.
It's way fun.
But that's not the reality in some cases.
And I think that when you have a great piece of art, it's going to inspire and create other great pieces of art, be they comedy, tragedies, visual art. We just talked about the Taylor Swift song. There was a Dire Straits song before that. I mean, how many songs have involved Romeo and Juliet?
Right. So
I don't
many.
even know. I don't even know.
Yeah. And going a little off to the side,
Hmm.
um, your wife,
Hmm.
Suzanne, is
Hmm.
also part of this production playing
Yeah.
Juliet's nurse. Her character, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet. Her character also supports and like guides Juliet. She's like the mirror to Friar Lawrence's
That's
character.
right. That's right. I'm a counselor to both of them, but I'm
Mhm.
mostly with Romeo,
Yeah.
and she is mostly with Juliet. And she's very happy, and she's the only other person that knows about the secret wedding.
Yeah.
But then when the second marriage comes up, Romeo's been banished and has run away to Mantua, which is where I've told him to go to wait until we can figure out a way to bring him back.
Yeah.
Um, this second marriage proposal comes along, and Juliet asks her for advice, and the nurse says, "You know what? I, Romeo's gone. He's never coming back. Nobody knows about this. I think you should just marry Paris." And Juliet doesn't say it to the nurse, but as soon as the nurse is gone, is like, "Well, I'm done with you. You're not
Yeah.
my counselor anymore." So then she comes to me saying, "I'm going to kill myself." And that's when I give her the sleeping potion to try to keep her from killing herself, which she ends up doing anyway.
Yep. Can stop it. It all happened that way. So, what is it like working alongside your wife on stage and playing those parallel roles, especially how it leads for your characters to end up with Juliet dying anyway and killing herself anyway?
Yeah, it's I met my wife acting here in Orlando. In the early 90s, we played Rosalind and Orlando in Orlando
Wow. Yeah.
on Rosalind Avenue because we were performing down at the Lake Eola Amphitheater, which is downtown. So
Yeah.
that's how we met. And 10 years later, we named our daughter Rosalind, kind of in honor of that event. So
Yeah.
we played Hamlet and Ophelia together. We played a lot of young lovers way back in the 90s. And then I became the artistic director here, and I mostly started directing, and we had children. So we started trading projects because somebody's got to do homework with the kids while somebody else is at the theater.
Yeah.
So we haven't acted in an Orlando stage together since that time. So it's been 30 years since we got
Wow.
to be together. We've acted in other theaters around the country, but not here in Orlando. So that's great. We don't have a lot of time on stage together. We have time where we're trying to. Romeo doesn't want to be banished and tries to kill himself.
Yeah.
I've stopped them from killing themselves multiple times, but
Yeah.
ultimately I don't win that effort. And then at the very end, the prince says, "What happened? How did all this take place?" And I go, I actually know. I married them. This is, I go through the whole story. And at the end, I say, "All this I know. And of the marriage, the nurse is privy." And I look at her, and what I'm trying to do as the friar is to say, I'm not making this up. Other people can corroborate my story.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm outing her. And when I say that, she goes down on her knees and she looks at the Capulets because it's like, "You liar. How did you know this and you didn't do anything?" We were doing it for a student matinee a couple days ago. And I said, and the nurse knows, and somebody sitting right behind her went, "Oh, snap." Because it was like, why are you telling everybody? So she, and it's the play is based on a poem. And in the poem in the 1500s, and in the poem, at the end, the nurse is banished from Verona, and she doesn't really do anything very wrong.
Wow.
The friar is sent off to a hermitage. He's actually, which is kind of a punishment, but not really. And the apothecary in Mantua, who gives the poison to Romeo, is hanged. And it's kind of like,
Wow.
actually, in justice, the person that should be hanged is Friar Laurence. He's responsible for the death of these two kids. But because he's a man of the cloth, he is pardoned. So anyway, I love acting on stage with my wife, and we like driving to the theater together and, being backstage and at the end, going home at the end of the night.
Oh, that's amazing. So to kind of wrap up, um, how would you convince someone who has like never really seen Romeo and Juliet before, who's only like barely read it in their English class?
Yeah.
How would you convince them to see this production?
Well, I would invite them. I wouldn't convince them.
Oh,
I mean, if I don't like Shakespeare and I don't ever want to see it, well, okay, fine.
yeah.
Some people, I love football and some people don't. I'll be watching the Super Bowl and my wife will not. So it all depends on what you enjoy. But if you've ever been in love, here's a story that's about you.
Wow.
If you have ever had a fight with your parents, here's a story about you. If you've ever been a parent having a fight with your children, here's a story about you. If you've ever had a friend who became so depressed they committed suicide, here's a story about you. It's about the human condition. And another thing that a lot of people really forget about Romeo and Juliet is it starts as a comedy. It is a comedy right until the swords come out. And people think, oh, I'm coming to the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. And they're often very surprised by what's going on because there's a marriage, everything's going, there's a dance, they fall in love, there's the balcony scene. I mean, I suppose if I was going to convince somebody, the balcony scene is probably the most famous scene in all of history.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd like to know what that is. So that if you do see Romeo and Juliet, you know where it came from.
Exactly.
Because these stories and these words that Shakespeare created are all words and stories we use today now that have become the bedrock of our culture. He invented many, many words we use today.
So many.
So many, right? And you'll go, oh, a rose by any other name will smell as sweet. That's Romeo and Juliet? I didn't know that. You'll constantly hear things and go, I didn't know this was from this play. There's a joke about Hamlet that somebody goes, I went to see Hamlet and I just don't get it. It's just a collection of famous quotes. Why should I care about that? Because like almost every line is a famous line today. But of course, when he wrote them, not so much. So that would be my invitation. We play the rest of this week. Today is Tuesday, so we play Wednesday, a matinee at 2, an evening show at 7 Thursday. Wednesday night, we have a school matinee Thursday and Friday morning. We have an evening show, 7:30 Friday, 7:30 Saturday, and then a matinee at 2 o'clock on Sunday. Another thing that if you've come to the theater before and you've sat very far away to see those little people on a stage, that might be your experience. This theater is very close and you are a part of the action that's happening on the stage, and actors are going to turn and directly talk to you in the course of the play. So it's not at all like in TV and film. If I'm watching Fallout and I go get a glass of milk and come back, they don't know that.
Yeah.
They're not talking to me. That's just going on no matter what my input is. But one of the things that's great about the theater is the audience gets the show they create.
Yeah.
If the audience comes and they're a bunch of laughers, we'll lean into that. If they're all tragic, we'll lean into that. So the play is a symbiosis between that, like a live sporting event is.
Yeah. It's about the connection.
There's a connection between the audience and the actor. And I think as we come out of the pandemic and as we move into an age where more and more we're on our computers, you and I are not in the same room right now. And if we were, we'd still be having a great time. We're having a great time right now, but it would be different.
It would.
Human interaction, we were meant as mammals to be together in a tribe. And if you are longing for some more human connection because you're lonely and on a computer all the time, come to the theater. It's where all the people are.
Yeah. Where you can connect with people. Well, thank you so much. This was a fantastic interview. For everybody watching, please go to the Orlando Shakespeare Theater and see this production of Romeo and Juliet. And
we're on the website, www.orlandoshakes.org, and our phone number is 447-1700. Press extension 1 for the box office.
yes, and I will be sure to put all of that in the links below.
Yay, good.
Yay. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome.